Hi there. I'm just going to do a quick presentation here for the Learning Activity 3 about traits of a successful youth program. And so quickly, we're going to look at a research report that was based on barriers to participation in older youth before looking at the characteristics of successful youth programs and finally looking at application, how this can all apply to my personal context. And so the research report that I looked at was a report called Breaking Down Potential Barriers to Continued Program Participation. And basically, this is a study that focuses on how youth perceive the costs and benefits of attending youth programs. And the overall assumption that kind of drives this whole thing is that youth program participation has positive development outcomes. So basically, the fact that you're attending some form of youth program invariably has some sort of positive outcome. And that's the base assumption. And so this report ultimately looks at how to keep youth involved in programs. And basically, as I said, it looks at how youth perceive barriers to participation. And so when youth get older, typically they tend to decrease their attendance at youth programs. This trend is emphasized amongst ethnic minorities. In general, in all youth programming, ethnic minorities are underrepresented, and the trend of older youth being removed from youth programs or stopping attending is emphasized amongst ethnic minorities. When asked why exactly their attendance is decreasing or why they are not attending programs, typically there were three categories or three reasons that were given. The first was academic expectations, and so obviously as one gets older, there's the expectation to do more schoolwork. That naturally comes with the territory, as well as there are increased expectations on the schoolwork. You need to succeed. You need to get certain marks in order to get into university. Second reason would always be social. Typically, attendance at youth programs depends on friends and social groups. And so if a youth program interferes with spending time in social activities outside of that, youth are typically, as they get older, going to stop attending those programs in order to spend time with youth in their own social recreational environments. Additionally, if friends are not attending or they kind of make fun of a certain program, youth will stop attending based on that as well. And finally, there is family and family roles and expectations and all of that. And while typically in North America, autonomy increases as youth get older, especially in ethnic minority cultures, there may be increased family expectations as far as contributing to the financial stability of the family, or looking out for younger siblings, or taking care of whatever variety of different expectations there are at home. And so those are the three categories for why youth often will say, I'm too busy, I'm under stress, I can't do this as well as all of these other things that are expected of me. And so obviously, in order for a youth to choose to continue to participate, the benefits of the youth program need to outweigh, these three other demands of their time. And basically, it's shown that when these elements are part of youth programming, they're shown to be a benefit, that youth kind of are drawn to these things. And those two elements are youth voice, which is the empowerment and efficacy felt by youth. As youth voices increase, as they feel like, yes, I'm heard, I can do something, I can contribute to this program, there is a continued engagement. And basically, the research looks at, the hypothesis for the research is, does more youth voice mean less barriers to participation? And then additionally, does this differ for ethnic minorities? So the study essentially is looking at these characteristics and if they are affected differentially across ethnic differences. Second characteristic of programming that would draw youth in comparison to those barriers is supportive relationships. Is there a presence of a caring, stable adult who will model social skills and foster self-worth in youth? And the same hypothesis is there, that more supportive relationships existing will mean that there's less barriers, or youth will be more inclined to attend. And so the results of the study were that while white youth, attended the program longer, they attended the program at an older age, they experienced more supportive relationships and they felt a stronger voice during this whole time. In general, white youth experience. The study also had a higher proportion of white youth in it, and so that could also explain that. Second result was that, age. So as a youth got older, they felt that they had more youth voice. So those increased together, as well as you might assume that as supportive relationships increased, so also did the youth's perception of youth voice increase together. Perhaps what is most shocking and kind of counter to the predominance of the research that was cited in this article is that youth voice increases the barriers faced amongst ethnic minorities. So as youth voice, or the ability to feel empowered or engaged in certain programs, actually increase the likelihood of youth kind of dropping off or feeling more stress based on those other characteristics. So, as I feel more engaged, I feel my voice is more heard in this location, I might feel more pressures on school, or I might feel more pressures at home, or whatever it is. And the researchers kind of explored, well, what's the cause of this? Because it seems counterintuitive, where in every other kind of setting, youth voice increases participation or decreases those barriers. It's opposite here for ethnic minorities. And so the thoughts of the researchers is that the benefits of youth voice does not necessarily mean continued participation. Even though a youth might benefit and feel, I feel valued in this space, doesn't actually necessarily mean that they will continue. And largely for ethnic minorities is that if you are an underrepresented youth, you may feel that there's an increased demand to choose between the majority culture presented by the youth program and your own culture, your own family culture. So, for instance, if you're a Black youth in a predominantly white program, you might feel the need to adhere to white culture more than you would to your family's culture. And so that tension is increased, or whatever the ethnic minority might be. Secondly, a youth might experience, wow, I have experienced the benefits of youth voice. They might feel empowered. They might feel that they are able to accomplish things, but they might realize I can't accomplish things in this specific program. And they might start to seek other opportunities, whether that's, amongst their own family, whether that's amongst their own community. Youth might go and use the benefits that they've had and seek out other opportunities, which doesn't mean a bad thing. But again, that might mean or be why youth will drop off as they experience more youth voice. And so with that research in mind, we kind of come across some characteristics of successful youth programs. The first is youth voice. As a youth feels empowered, as a youth feels that they have efficacy, this is crucial to programs. This is something that youth are needing, and this is something that is important in youth programming. And this is developed through ongoing interactions that encourage self-expression and foster respect for the opinions and ideas of others. As one is constantly engaging with others and engaging with others' ideas, and while you're given chances to express your ideas and opinions, and given chances to engage in making something happen, that is fostered and developed, and you feel like you have power, and you feel like you can do things, and you feel like others will listen to you and respect what you have to say. And so obviously this promotes positive youth outcomes. This promotes positive youth development through efficacy, through empowerment, through engagement. As one is able to make change and do all those things, they feel more inclined to continue participating and being part of that process of, I can make change, I can do these things. And so that will foster their development. It also fosters responsibility. And as I mentioned, continued engagement when it's culturally meaningful. As we talked about, the research report showed that it can actually, a youth will perhaps choose to stop attending a program because it's not culturally relevant to them. And so youth voice is one of the key characteristics of successful youth programs. A second one is supportive relationships. The opportunity for growth in the presence of caring and stable adults. In any variety of youth studies, a caring adult, a supportive relationship from an adult is crucial in youth development. And this is shown even in this study as well. that there's positive youth development that comes about through youth and adult partnerships. It encourages continued participation in programs. It promotes a connectivity, that there's positive youth functioning. Youth will function better when they have these supportive relationships, and also that psychosocial functioning will increase as well for youth when there's supportive relationships present. So how does this all apply? So if youth voice and if supportive relationships are crucial or essential in successful youth programs, how does this apply to my context? Well, in my context, the youth that are participants are around 45% First Nations, 45% Chinese, and 10% other, whether that's Black, whether that's Latino, or white. And the staff, it's myself and another person, so 2 white males are the staff, and the program essentially is a variety of different activities that are recreation, life skills, spiritual elements like Bible study or prayer, as well as mentorship. And so that's the program. And so how does that youth voice and supportive relationship come into play? Well, youth voice, essentially in a lot of ways, the most basic way is that there needs to be opportunities for planning and implementation of changes. And so bringing youth in the planning process of those recreation things, of those life skills, of the spiritual elements, of, well, I guess not so much mentorship, but even maybe there can be a peer mentorship element down the road. So just providing more opportunities for that youth voice. As you can see from the demographics of our group, there's a need for culturally meaningful leadership. I think in the past we've tried some service projects and opportunities to give youth a voice, but it's often been prescribed by the staff rather than empowering the youth to discover where do we want to engage in our community, what do we want to contribute. And so that is crucial to see what exactly they want to do and give them the opportunities to explore. Otherwise, although we might be giving them benefits, they might seek out other opportunities, which if there are other opportunities, we don't need to be competitive and fight over our youth. But it's crucial to make sure that they do have supportive adults through that process of leadership. And then the final bit is like in this youth voice is there's a need to remove this competition between mainstream goals and cultural familiar goals. Again, you look at it and we have 2 white male staff for this teen boy program, and to have 2 adults who are very different culturally than the youth themselves is a little interesting. And so again, if we empower them and seek out ways to make their culture more relevant than perhaps how they perceive a white culture, that is crucial in giving them a youth voice. And then for supportive adults, to carry on that point, there is a need to find similar cultural adults, whether those are volunteers, whether they are staff. I know in the past we've had some Chinese volunteers, but even though almost half of our population is First Nations, we've never had really any First Nations adults involved. And that truly, I believe, is an issue, because although we can be supportive adults to them, it's not fully culturally sensitive. And so that's crucial to kind of bring more adults along for this journey. And with that is engaging parents in programming and engaging the parents in what exactly we're doing, what we're trying to do, what we believe is positive for their children. And that's all of it. So basically, as we can see, although research shows that youth voice can potentially have a negative impact, we can take a lesson from that and just make sure that when we provide youth voice and supportive adults for our children and youth, that it is culturally sensitive, it is relevant to their lives and their families. And yeah, I hope that this has been useful and informative. And here quickly is the reference from the journal Youth and Society. The article is Breaking Down Potential Barriers to Continued Program Participation. Thanks for listening.